So good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to see you in front of us for this for this second summit of the annual of the EUGLOH European Alliance. I'm Eric Cassan, so I'm the coordinator of the research project, the H2020 project of the EUGLOH of our European Alliance. And I have the pleasure to introduce, to welcome you first, to warmly welcome you here at Paris-Saclay. So on behalf of the university, we will have the words of Estelle Iacona, our acting president. On behalf of all our teams on behalf of the wonderful the local organizing committee here at Paris-Saclay University. I'm very, very proud and very, very happy to welcome you here at Paris-Saclay. I do hope that you have got a good rest, everything is fine for you. So we have 2.5 days to exchange, to discuss, and it will be a wonderful event. We do hope so, and we are sure that all of you, okay, this event will be wonderful. So I will not be too long. I would like to pass the floor first to Philippe Maître from ENS Paris-Saclay for some welcoming words from ENS Paris-Saclay. After, we will have Vanessa de Biais-Sainton from the European Commission. So Vanessa de Biais-Sainton is the head of the higher education unit at the European Commission. So she has been very involved in the development of the European University Initiative. So thank you very much to Vanessa. After, we will have Esther Iacona, our acting president at Paris-Saclay University. She will describe the commitment of Paris-Saclay University in the development with all of you, with all the partners, in the development of this alliance and the next developments after January next year. We do hope so much. We will have Charlotte Mal, the voice of the students. We have the chance to have the voice of the students, including in that introduction plenary session. This is exceptional. So Charlotte will represent the international boards, and she will present the voice of the students, which is so important for the development of our European Alliance. Last, I will give you a short introduction on the vision of the project coordination. So it will be done on behalf of Sandrine Lacombe, professor at Paris-Saclay University, which has been prevented to attend that event. And that will be so happy to welcome you by herself. So Sandrine, you are probably online. Okay, so Philippe, if you wish, thank you very much for some words.
Good morning, dear colleagues. On behalf of the president of the school here, Pierre-Paul Zaliot, I would like to warmly welcome you to the École Normale Supérieure Paris-Saclay, which is part of Université Paris-Saclay. So I will be short. First, I hope you will be able to enjoy the garden, which is quite refreshing, which is a point today, I guess. And also don't hesitate to visit the buildings. All the doors are open. And if you take the bridge here, it will take you to the atrium, which is a large open space where you will find, for example, an exhibition of the design department. Master students have their objects and their posters also. So this large open space is an interesting ecosystem of teaching spaces and labs crossing each other. And you will find bio, you will find physics, math, sociology, economy, for instance, which offers interesting opportunities for global health challenges, for example. So I wish you an excellent meeting, and I will leave the floor to Vanessa de Biais-Sainton.
Okay. From the European Commission. Merci beaucoup, Philippe. Thanks a lot. Bonjour, Vanessa. Good morning. Thank you so much to be present with us.
Bonjour à tous. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be with all of you, although virtually, but with my heart, I am fully present with you. So, dear students, academics, staff, researchers, industrial and business partners, all members of the EUGLOH European University for Global Health. It is a great pleasure to meet all of you this morning while we are celebrating this year the European Year of Youth and the 35th anniversary of the most emblematic European program that is Erasmus+. And that is thanks to all of you, because you are, thanks to your daily hard work, making this program a reality. And I would say even more than that, hugely successful. EUGLOH, which is the European University for Global Health, funded by the Erasmus+ program and others, will be a key player to move towards seamless mobility for a majority of your students, staff, and professionals, mobility that can be physical, virtual, or blended. And we are looking forward to see the development of interdisciplinary global health programs across your universities and higher education institutions, striving towards a joint European degree. And the setup also of a vibrant, multicultural, and inclusive inter-university campus. We encourage all of you, students and staff, to take ownership of this EUGLOH European University, be part of its development, and take full advantage of all the great opportunities we know it can bring to you. And we ask for the continued commitment and mobilization of all university leadership involved. And we know how much mobilized you are. Because there is no transformation of higher education, no capacity to work for more resilience and sustainability without the creativity, the energy, and the enthusiasm of your higher education leaders and management. And such enthusiasm and creativity is absolutely fundamental, because now comes the critical moment to develop even more joint educational activities together, be it at bachelor, master, or doctoral levels, so that more of your staff and students can really experiment and benefit from this European University. And now comes the moment to boost mobilities, now that we are a little bit, that the pandemic is a bit behind us. Let's hope for that. And now comes the moment also to work closely together, and the time to also even closely interact with your innovation ecosystems. And we at the European Commission are on your side to further support EUGLOH. On the 5th of April this year, the Council endorsed the higher education package that was proposed by the Commission through the adoption of important Council conclusions on the European strategy for universities. And they also adopted a very important Council recommendation to make more effective European higher education cooperation to facilitate your work and your transnational activities, be it when it comes to quality assurance, be it when it comes to develop innovative transdisciplinary activities. So European universities, such as EUGLOH, have been key in the development of this higher education package, and we built on your experiences as you are leading the way towards a true European education area in higher education. The member states have expressed their strong support for the strategy, so now we have a green light, if you want, to push our 4 key objectives, which is first, a stronger European dimension to higher education research. Second, to support you in your role as beacons of the European way, if you want, in your role for inclusive and excellent higher education research. Third, to empower you to tackle the twin and green transition. And fourth, to reinforce your higher education institutions as fundamental drivers of European global leadership in cooperation with your industrial and business partners. Of course, the devil is in the details, and it is really important that all these details are discussed with you. So we really rely on your input for the implementation of this higher education package, and we continue to rely on your experiences and your feedback to follow up and make sure that we can support you in the best possible way. And this brings me to our 4 flagships: the European Universities Initiative rollout, a possible European legal status for alliances, a possible joint European degree, and the progressive deployment of the European Student Cloud Initiative. So first, we're going to broaden the European Universities Initiative to 60 European Universities Alliances involving more than 500 higher education institutions across Europe. And for this, we're going to invest more than €1 billion to support this initiative, together with other European instruments such as Horizon Europe. And we very much welcome your application to the next phase, so to the Erasmus Plus call, which closed on the 22nd of March, and we will present the results by the end of July. Second, we are going to work towards a fully voluntary and flexible possible legal status for your alliances of higher education institutions, because we want to allow you, if that is your wish, of course, to make common strategic decisions and facilitate pulling together your resources, activities, data, fully respecting, of course, your institutional autonomy. The third point is that we are going to examine options and necessary steps towards a possible joint European degree. The objective is to valorize the fantastic training that you are offering to your students, transdisciplinary, transnational, intersectoral, and that will give your students a fantastic way to demonstrate in the labor market the fantastic skills and competencies that they have developed. But this will also make your higher education institutions even more visible on the worldwide scene. So as a first step, we're going to pilot a European criteria for the award of the joint European degree label. And this will support joint programs delivered in the context of transnational cooperation between universities like yours. And based on the results, we will explore further steps towards the possible design and delivery of joint degrees at all levels, based on the co-created European criteria that we are going to test today. And this is fresh news that I am announcing all of you. We are launching today an Erasmus Plus pilot call to test the joint European degree label, as well as the available EU legal instruments to set a possible legal status for alliances like yours. So I can only invite EUGLOH and all your partners to participate in this pilot call, to be able to co-shape it together with us in the best possible way, so that it is as relevant and as useful for all of you. And the fourth key flagship is the progressive scale-up of the European Student Card Initiative that will expedite mobility paperwork and eliminate on-site registration procedures. So it's a very ambitious initiative, connecting 5,000 different IT systems from universities across Europe. It takes time, it demands effort on all parts, but we know that it will save time, money, and headaches for students and institutions. So the adoption of the strategy and the recommendation echo the support we have for fully developing instruments like this for deeper, more robust cooperation across borders. And we hope that it will facilitate your work and all the fantastic transnational activities that you are putting in place. Now, before concluding, I cannot but mention another huge challenge that we are all facing, that is the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. We are very proud on the really mobilization and response of the higher education community in support of Ukraine. We know that a number of European universities are really being mobilized to help academics in Ukraine and their students in maintaining and developing their institutional capacities. And across higher education and research, we are really mobilizing all possible EU instruments to support students and staff, academics and researchers coming to Europe as refugees. So we have really stretched the flexibility of the Erasmus Plus program to its maximum, so that you can really support financially with Erasmus Plus incoming students and staff, train academics to reshaping their higher education systems. And in the next calls that are going to be published this autumn, a key priority of all the Erasmus Plus cooperation projects will be the support to Ukraine. So, as you see, we are doing really our maximum to support your great activities within EUGLOH. And I thank you again for this opportunity today to interact with all of you. Your work and dedication are of utmost importance, and I really, really look forward to our continued interaction in the coming months and years. Thank you very much. And of course, I wish you a fantastic and fruitful meeting today. Thank you very much.
Dear Vanessa, thank you so much for the commitment of the European Commission, especially the DG of Education, but okay. Yeah. So thank you so much. So we will have a wonderful summit with 2 more days to discuss that directions and other directions also led by especially our rectors, our presidents, all the staff, all the students and so on. And with the commitment of the European Commission, we can also rely on the commitment of the states, the member states, that can articulate some of their actions with the European Commission also. This is the room for fruitful discussions during the 2 days and the next weeks and months. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
So now we will welcome Estelle Iacona, our acting president at Paris-Saclay University. Thank you very much, Estelle.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you, of course. I would like first to thank École Normale Supérieure de Paris-Saclay to host this session. So thank you to Pierre-Paul Zaliot, the president of ENS, and to Philippe Maître to be able to welcome us. And it's a great place. So as Philippe just said, enjoy the place. And usually when I come to visit or to work at ENS, I just want to stay here in the garden and just enjoying the place. So I hope you'll do the same. I'm very happy to share this introduction word with Vanessa Debier-Sainton, head of higher education unit of the European Commission, and with Charlotte Mal, student here at Université Paris-Saclay and representing as an elected member students at EUGLOH. I'm very happy. Why? Because European Commission, Europe, and students. So basically, it's the image of what we are all doing every day at EUGLOH Alliance, and it's also what Université Paris-Saclay does and wants to do and to go on every day. Students for Europe, citizens for Europe. So it's again, thank you, Vanessa and Charlotte, to be with us. His Excellency, Georges Hasbour-Lorraine, Ambassador of Hungary in France, representatives of French and foreign ministries, distinguished guests and representatives from territories and partners countries, dear rectors of universities of EUGLOH Alliance, dear professors, researchers, and staff, dear students and dear partners. It's a great pleasure and honor to introduce the second annual summit of the EUGLOH European Alliance. Before starting and sharing with you some words and some challenges, I really would like to warmly thank Sandrine Lacombe, who is not able to be with us today. So Sandrine Lacombe is the Vice President for International Affairs at Université Paris-Saclay, and she's the coordinator of EUGLOH, and I think she has been working with all of you. I see some of people working also with Sandrine in different universities. So I think you have been all working for more than 5 years and even more to build this alliance. So Sandrine did an immense job, immense work to build this alliance. So I know that she's quite sad not to be able to be here. So please take a lot of pictures during all the 2 days, and we'll send to Sandrine all the pictures and videos. So thanks to her and to her counterpart in different universities. So we can clap you. Thank you very much to all of you. So I just wanted to share a few ideas and challenges that we are facing. In just few decades, our societies will have to look after, feed, transport, and educate 9 billion people. These responsibilities will be strongly marked by environmental imperatives, from the climate emergency to the depletion of natural resources, from social imbalances and inequalities to a redefinition of geopolitical balances that challenge the democratical models that we know. Our interdependent knowledge will be challenged from all sides. Many challenges are scientific and technological, such as finding more effective cancer treatments or renewable energy solutions. These challenges require the contribution of science in its broadest sense, fundamental science to applied science, life science and health, of course, humanities, social sciences, engineering, and so on. And we have to, if we want to contribute to these challenges, we need to look at all these sciences to contribute to global challenges on global scales for global health. Technology will need to provide incumbent solutions. Changes will need to integrate ethical solutions. And innovation will need to assume consequences within the framework of values of justice and emancipation. Society will therefore not only need scientists and decision makers who can imagine and provide innovative response to these challenges, but also economic and social actors who can implement these essential changes, and of course, enlightened citizens who care about these things. And so, the higher education and research sector will undergo major changes worldwide for two reasons. First, students, more than ever, will seek out education that guarantees them the best potential for their future, whatever their profile. Students want greater access to an education pathway which makes sense for them. This is a generation that votes with their feet. They will go where they want to go and not where we want them to go. Two, governments will continue to have a vital need to develop innovation, both to contribute to the progress of societies and to ensure the sovereignty in the area of health, food, production of essential goods, energy consumption, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, to name a few. Thus, higher education and research as a sector will take on a bigger role in society and will change at this global scale. European University Alliance have now become part of our landscape since 2019, supported by the policies of the European Commission and the member states. And we see that European University Alliances are at the core, at the heart of these challenges for the future. A great deal has already been achieved in terms of mobility, education experience, campus life, links to business and private stakeholders, and the sharing of practices and networking of researchers. So thank you for all the actors to contribute to that. I am sure that this summit will allow us to highlight and enhance these actions, and from there, to capitalize and project ourselves toward the future. European Alliance are nourishing by the complementary practices and culture of our universities and countries. This diversity of approaches in the European characteristic and a source of wealth. The values of inclusion, of sharing practices on a European scale while representing diversities that's what make Europe. We share democratic values and solidarity in the framework of excellence for science, for students, and for all our missions and dimensions. This is why our every step has to be with and for European youth, for our students. This is how we build on the talent of Europe and everything she brings to the world. And this is when we take our responsibility in the service to students, teachers, researchers, private actors, and civil society. So this summit will be also a festive moment, a time for meeting and a time for cohesion, and also a time for ideas to flourish and to contribute to all the challenges I just spoke about. So have fun, be proud to be a EUGLOH member, and I am counting on you for all these next steps and to continue to build the alliance. So thanks again for being here with us. Thanks to all the organizers of these days. Thank you, Eric, and all the team. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Guillaume. I'm sure that it will be wonderful, so enjoy the days, enjoy the summit, and thank you very much. See you during the next days. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm very honored for opening the second annual summit of EUGLOH. In fact, I am honored to carry the voice of 48,000 students from Paris-Saclay to welcome you to our home. And I am honored to be able to speak on behalf of 210,000 students from all of the EUGLOH partners. And so I want to thank the Alliance for giving us a voice today. Last but not least, I am extremely happy to know that the student community represented by this alliance is growing with the expansion to the 4 new partners to whom I want to say welcome. I'm Charlotte Mal. I'm the student representative from the University of Paris-Saclay, as well as a bachelor student in sports and sciences and athletic training. Some of you may recognize me from the workout videos I used to produce for the summer schools. And other campus life activities. I'm standing here in front of you today because I have been asked to say a few words at the opening ceremony of this 2022 annual summit. But to be totally honest with you, I've never been so intimidated in my entire life. I have never written nor delivered a speech before, especially for such a major event. And actually, I had no idea where to start. And I think you've all noticed by now that this speech is starting in a bit of an informal and atypical way, but you're still here and you're still listening to me, so that's good. I think that as a student, it's generally harder to feel at ease when it comes to expressing our opinions and sharing our perspective to the leaders, the managers, and directors. The dread of the formal barrier and the code of conduct is an obstacle that often causes the student to remain quiet and to conceal their claims and their needs. But if there's anything that I've learned through my experience with EUGLOH, and I think you will all agree with me on that, is that the best ideas often come from informal and from spontaneous conversations. Students are key stakeholders in the construction of tomorrow's Europe and tomorrow's world that is facing major contemporary societal issues. And my presence on that stage and the presence of so many students during the summit is a direct evidence of that. If I'm here today expressing myself beyond formality measures, it's because EUGLOH makes it a point to include the future generations in the construction of a European network collaborating to address global health challenges, no matter our communication skills. Each of us has a role to contribute individually, but mostly collectively, to the construction of this alliance. As students, we are the representatives of the present and the future generations. Thus, we must endeavor to build a better, more equal, and more solidary future. Time together, time to grow is the theme of our second summit, which seems perfectly adequate to me at the time we live in today, without forgetting all of the members of the university community, whether teachers, researchers, academic staff. I'm thinking of the unique opportunity offered by this alliance to bring together students from all around Europe around common interests, each with their particularities, their culture, and their differences, which we bring together in a multicultural alliance concerned with the integration and the inclusion of each of us and promoting values of equality, fraternity, and solidarity, elements that are so dear to France. Being a student within the alliance is to being given the opportunity to be a learner and an actor, equipped with the necessary tools to better address actual and future societal contemporary challenges, not only as European citizens, but also as tomorrow's leaders. In fact, as students and actors of the Alliance, we carry the voices of the European students and make them count in the decision-making process to shape the future of Europe. As a student-centered alliance, we are given a voice to express our needs and our opinions, as well as take part in the decisions and projects impacting the students. I am proud of being part of an alliance where the students can be heard and are active collaborators in the different projects implying the shaping of Europe, and this from the very beginning. On behalf of the students I'm representing today, I think I can say that we are all very keen on contributing to the reinforcement of the European identity and the European space. We want to develop the fields of research and innovation with the recognition of our degrees at a European scale, and by making it easier and more accessible to work closely with the different partners on various projects for the future of global health. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you so much, Charlotte, on behalf of the students. It's so strong and so deep. You see the engagement and the richness of the message of the students and their true and visible engagement in the Alliance. So many things has been said. So I will have some words also. I would say on behalf of the coordination of the project, of the EUGLOH project. And some messages also from the teams and regarding the following steps of the summit. So first, it is again and again a pleasure to welcome you here at Paris-Saclay University. We are thrilled that so many of you, academics, citizens, students, industry, stakeholders, and other people have taken time out of your busy schedules to come and to allocate 2.5 days and sometimes 3 days to be present here at Paris-Saclay University. So this time is indeed a time to see what we have done during the two last years. This is an opportunity for us to celebrate the successes, the numerous successes of EUGLOH 1.0, so our European Alliance, and to build together the next steps in the future and to grow even more. Our approach, it was said, both matters with inclusion and excellence. And here are the two pillars that I think we believe that we have to target all together. We are very thrilled to welcome the 4 new partners. So with this new set of partners, we will have 9 universities. So briefly reminding the Ludwig Maximilian University München, Germany, LMU, Szeged University, Hungary, Lund University, Porto University, Université Paris-Saclay, Paris-Saclay University. And the 4 new partners, so University of Hamburg, University of Alcala, University of Novi Sad, and University of the Arctic University of Norway. So welcome to the new partners, definitely. You have already been engaged in the construction, in the writing, in the drafting, in the preparation of the next project, and definitely you have already provided your energy, your enthusiasm into these dynamics. So with so many partners, profiles, I'm confident that every of us will have time during these 2 and more days to share, learn, grow, create, and build. This is something that we have learned in the last 2 years, definitely. The human dimensions, the meetings are very important. So, of course, we can rely on blended solutions, remote discussion, but sometimes we need to meet, we need to celebrate, we need to enjoy, and this is the spirit of this summit, from which we both wait to the cohesion, the way to discuss all together, but also to prepare new actions. And you will see with the village that I'm just going to describe that indeed we both target big meetings promoting and cohesion, but also a step to prepare new actions. So we will have the great pleasure to welcome you in the village that will be held in the another building. You will be guided. It is in the program definitely, the Ashbar building. So you will have the pleasure, and we hope that you will have the pleasure to have lively discussions and enriching discussion and bright ideas. You will see the format will be explained in the announcements that will be given just after. The village itself has 5 stands that match the core domains of EUGLOH. So EUGLOH Global Health is much beyond health itself, that's obvious. So we have the core domains, including the future of medicine, digital health and technologies, which can matter with many things that are done within our universities. Climate change, which is so strong challenge for all our societies, including environmental hazards and biodiversity. Social and human sciences for global health and healthy living and well-being, including sport, nutrition, and food. So you see how broad are the topics in global health and how they matter with the challenges of our societies, of the European societies, and beyond Europe, but mostly here for Europe. So these topics are definitely of increasing relevance to the global health community, and our diversity, the number of institutions that we have, the strength of our communities, of the students and so on. We have definitely strong assets to address that complex interplay between the different topics and to address the challenges. As stated already, beyond the core domains of EUGLOH, of course, the Alliance is also committed to living and sharing the European values, which are a bit challenged these times with the geopolitical matters that you all know. So these themes and values, we do hope very much that they will be highlighted during the next 2 days, and we are here also to exchange and to discuss not only global health, perhaps to meet and to build some part of Europe, our collective action, definitely. To end here, I would like again to thank the institutions. So for sure, the European Commission, that's obvious. We had Vanessa de Biessanton, the head of the European, of the higher education unit at the European Commission, but also the member states. And for the French part, the French Research Agency, ANR, so for the top-up, for its support along the 3 years, for the French top-up on the budget. The French Ministry of Higher Education and Research. So this event, the EUGLOH Annual Summit, has been labeled as one of the events of the French presidency of the Council during the 6 months. So see, we are near the end of that period. It's a great honor for us, for all of us, not only Paris-Saclay, but for the EUGLOH Alliance to have received this label. So thank you very much also to the French ministers. Again, a small and a big, a short but a big thought to my colleague Sandrine Lacombe. It has been already said. Okay. So we wish you to have a very stimulating time at Paris-Saclay University and during that summit. And I wish you personally a very pleasant and very fruitful summit. So thank you very much. So I'm glad to welcome Professor Ildiko Tsoka from Szeged University to the Faculty of Pharmacy. So we will have 3 keynotes during that next part of the session. And you will see indeed the complementarities and the diversity of the topics addressed within global health. Definitely in 3 keynotes, it is impossible to address all the topics, but you will see already through that 3 topics, the diversity of what we do. So I'm very glad to pass the floor to Professor Ildiko Tsoka from Szeged University. Ildiko, thank you very much.
Yes.
If
Dear
the
colleagues.
needs the other laser pointer.
Yes, okay. till some changes in the here. Are you coming up? Okay, so dear colleagues, there are going to be 3 different topics presented today, followed by a roundtable discussion governed by Eric after me here, and with also the involvement of the students of EUGLOH partners. First of all, the first topic is going to be held, the presentation by Professor Peter Nilsson, a professor of clinical cardiovascular research from Lund University. Peter Nilsson is a professor of clinical cardiovascular research at the Lund University in Sweden and a senior consultant. His main area of expertise is cardiovascular and metabolic risk mechanism. This is especially relevant for studies related to the early vascular aging syndrome, which is a cardiovascular risk syndrome based mainly on the combination of increased arterial stiffness, impaired glucose metabolism, telomere length shortening, and early signs of atherosclerosis. Another field of interest is the gene-environment interactions behind the development of obesity and type 2 diabetes, but also the study of patients with type 1 diabetes of long duration but escaping major complications. He is a partner in PROLONG and ESCAPER studies. Most recently, he has been engaged in a project on biodiversity and health with a focus on the nexus between obesity, malnutrition, and climate change linked to loss of biodiversity. Please, Professor Nilsson, keep your presentation.
Bonjour, je suis heureux d'être ici parmi vous. I'm really honored to be here as a representative of my university in Sweden, the Lund University. I'm also very glad to see so many young faces, so many young students sitting here, and I hope you will be able to discuss with us and challenge some ideas and perceptions. I also get a flashback from years ago when I first visited Paris as a poor young Interrail student. Now I'm standing here. So time goes by, but today I'm going to address health in relation to biodiversity and climate change. This is a very important topic, of course, where different research areas can meet. It's a really cross-border topic, and I hope this could be of interest to you and to promote some discussions. We know that there is serious climate change going on, and this climate change will have a lot of will have a lot of impact on increased carbon dioxide levels, hotter climate, and other changes that in the end also will influence several health aspects, causing disease in various ways, or at least contributing to disease. There is often a gene-environmental interaction going on, and this climate change can in various ways promote disease and destroy health. This is why it's so important for us to try to understand these intersections and also try to find new ways to tackle the problems. As one philosopher once told, we are not here to only describe and analyze the world. We are here to try to change it, as you might know. So there is an interaction between, on the one hand, the climate change, threatening human health, but also impacting on biodiversity. However, improved biodiversity can mitigate the climate changes and can benefit human health. So we have to try to understand this complex interaction and to see what is possible to do to avoid the harmful effects of this climate change. On this slide, I show you a few examples of what global warming can cause according to ill health. Some examples. global warming has promoted the spread of new diseases to my country in Northern Europe. For example, tick-transmitted infections. Some serious infections are now becoming more and more common just because of the global warming and the spread of this tick infection. We all know the animal-human interaction. The SARS virus, the COVID-19 pandemic, is one example of what's going on, because when the rainforests are destroyed, wildlife will change, and the human-animal insect interaction will change, and that will promote some pandemics. Less biodiversity also means less attractive nature for human recreations and sports. This is something quite serious, but because if we want to promote health and a healthy lifestyle, we need biodiversity, we need some green areas to do this sport and to find a place for recreation. Then I will discuss in more detail the global syndemic. What is a syndemic? This means the synergistic effect of different epidemics, syndemic. And in this perspective, the Lancet, a famous medical journal, way back in 2019 published on the global syndemic, the interplay between obesity, undernutrition, or more correctly, malnutrition, and climate change. And that, in turn, affects biodiversity. So I will walk you through with a few slides what it means and what can be done about it. Before that, I would also like to address heat waves. And as we are in France, in the Paris area, I would like to remind you that in 2019, there was a serious heat wave hitting Europe in July, especially this area where we are right now. Many elderly patients or people suffered and many died. If you remember this event, the heat wave, and unfortunately this can happen again. Recently we learned that in India, in New Delhi, the temperature rose to about 50 degrees Celsius, and that will cause harm, and many people will suffer and even die from that heat wave. So, coming back to the global syndemic, this is a new idea, a perception, a construct to make it easier for us to understand the intersection, the interaction between different epidemics that can harm human health and public health. So, we have here obesity, undernutrition or malnutrition, I would say, and climate change. And these shared drivers require shared solutions, and I will address that. For example, if we consider malnutrition in a wider frame, here we have high BMI, dietary risks, and child and maternal undernutrition that can affect fetal growth and early life programming of adult health. So in combination, these three factors have a greater impact than some other factors according to disability-adjusted life years lost. This means that malnutrition in a wider perspective is of great importance for human health. A personal interest of mine is to understand the early life programming of adult disease like cardiovascular disease or type 2 diabetes or other conditions. So, what should be done about this? The triple duty action will address all the three components of the global syndemic. For example, if we can implement sustainable dietary guidelines, that will counteract obesity and non-communicable diseases like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. That will also impact on undernutrition, malnutrition, improve breastfeeding, healthy food, education, and access. And also impact on climate change, because if we promote more sustainable food choices, that will benefit the climate. Another example of triple duty action is to promote a transport mode shift that will include actions according to infrastructure, taxation, subsidies, and social marketing strategies that will in turn impact on obesity, non-communicable diseases, the malnutrition problem, and the global change, because it will lower the greenhouse gases, etc., that will in turn impact on temperature and climate. So triple action can address 3 problems. We should also consider that obesity is a driving force in the background of type 2 diabetes. And type 2 diabetes is really an emerging public health problem in so many areas of the world. And please notice here that type 2 diabetes is on the rise in Europe, not as much as in some other parts of the world. For example, in Africa, in the Middle East and North Africa, and in Southeast Asia, with very high numbers of the projected growth in coming decades. And of course, that is also linked to aging populations, like in Europe, different ways to diagnose this condition. But please remember that type 2 diabetes is of great importance to influence other diseases, like cardiovascular disease, like renal kidney disease, like some cancers, and very importantly, it may also impact on cognition and the risk of dementia, especially vascular dementia. So obesity with genes and some early life programming factors could influence the development of type 2 diabetes that in turn can promote the development of many other diseases or complications that will put a heavy burden on public health and harm the health of many people, not only the elderly, but also middle-aged people in many areas of the world. We should also consider some psychological aspects of this climate change. This slide from a paper in The Lancet 2021 investigated climate anxiety in children and young people and their beliefs about government responses to climate change, a global survey. I guess you all know about Greta Thunberg coming from Sweden, and with her so many young people, children and adolescents and young people are really worried, really concerned what's going on. And based on this paper, they had a survey, an international survey, to ask about climate anxiety. So if you focus on the red and orange bars, you see that in the Philippines, the proportion was the highest. In Finland, it was a little bit lower. Maybe it's a cooler area, and the Philippines is more hit by typhoons and heavy rains and nature disasters and so on. So this is another mapping of the consequences of climate change, the climate anxiety that will unfortunately also promote worse mental health. So in the second part of my talk, I will address a specific initiative at the Lund University, because we have been funded by some infrastructure funding to create a cross-faculty study group or a task force to focus on these problems. So health in relation to biodiversity and climate change, the Lund University initiative. And I'm very glad to present some of my colleagues here. We belong to 3 faculties. These people over here, they are working in biology, ecology, and the principal investigator is this Henrik Smith with some collaborators. These people here, they are working in environmental psychology that belongs to our technical university in Lund. and some other people here are working in medicine and epidemiology. I'm especially proud to present to you Pauline Rebouillat, a postdoc from Paris, coming to Lund University, and I will show a few of her data that she recently analyzed. So we are very glad to have her on the team. So the project aim is really to create a new research field at Lund University targeting synergies and trade-offs between biodiversity, climate, public health and human well-being goals using ecosystem management, so-called nature-based solutions as an instrument. This is perhaps a bit difficult to understand, at least for me, coming from medicine, entering another field, so I have to learn all the time, being a student once more. But I think it makes a lot of sense to come together to discuss these aspects and to try to not only do some research, but also to present some action plans or some ways to promote beneficial changes. What about nature-based solutions? This is a definition from an international organization here, and as you can see here, nature-based solutions are actions to protect sustainability, manage and restore natural and modify ecosystems in ways that address societal challenges effectively and adaptively to provide both human well-being and biodiversity benefits. So what we can do to support the ecosystems will impact not only on the climate and biodiversity, but also in the end on human health. So what are we doing within this group? As a joint group project, we try to discuss and promote conceptual framework, this general picture of what we're doing, a synthesis of what has already been published, try to read and understand, to discuss, to put that into this new conceptual framework, but also to conduct some pilot studies in the area where we are in southern Sweden. So in ecology, they want to have some individual projects, mechanistic understanding of biodiversity, climate feedbacks, in environmental psychology, global environmental change in local nature, appraisal, emotion, health things. I come back to that. And in epidemiology, medicine, nature, access to green areas, lifestyle and risk of obesity, based on some epidemiological data from the province where we work and live. So coming back to postdoc Pauline Rebouillat from Paris, she used two data sets from our province, the Scania province in southern Sweden, approximately 1 million inhabitants. On the one hand, she had something called the Scania Public Health Cohort here, with a lot of data based on questionnaires from individuals living in this province. And to combine that with something called the Scout database, a questionnaire with some questions about nature, access to nature, appraisal of nature, and based on that, to calculate a biodiversity index. So the cohorts could be combined. We also use geographical coordinates of residency to really map this. And just to show you some very preliminary data about the socioeconomic gradient in perceived diversity, she calculated a biodiversity index, and quartile 4 is the highest. So according to age, the perceived highest biodiversity was found a little bit more in the elderly than in the young. And more men in the highest quartile than women, relatively speaking, and less people born outside Sweden in the highest quartile, and fewer people who cannot find ways to manage their bills, financial difficulties. So there is a profile, and then we will use this profile to analyze associations with obesity, and this work is ongoing. Finally, 2 slides on environmental psychology, because our colleagues, they are very keen to understand how people appraise nature. This is a psychological process, how people perceive and appraise nature, and that can impact on some feelings, some emotions, that could in turn impact on health. So they try to understand the complexities of this in the local context over here and in the global context, the impact of nature on the human thinking, on the human cognition, that will in turn influence emotions and behaviors. So to keep on time, this is my final slide. I think the challenge is really here. It's an agenda for research. I told you about the global syndemic. That to me is a concept to bring different faculties, different areas of research together. I also mentioned nature-based solutions to manage the ecosystems. For this mutual understanding, we need collaboration across disciplines, very important. Education at different levels, basic training, PhD studies, postdoc studies, and an outreach using websites, the modern media, seminars, research dissemination. And before ending here, I would like to say that many students are, of course, welcome to us, to the Lund University, and I hope some of our students will also travel abroad. So by this, I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. This was a very nice evidence for the holistic approach of everything, what we are starting to do and care with it, and also validates the global health, the EUGLOH's mission for global health, which affects everything around us. Our next presenter comes from another EUGLOH partner from Porto, from University of Porto. He's Louis-Philippe Cualjo Antunes, full professor in the Computer Science Department and the Faculty of Sciences of University of Porto. Currently, he is a member of the UPorto General Board, the director of the Competence Center for Cybersecurity and Privacy of University of Porto. He serves as Data Protection Officer of the Portuguese Data Protection Authority. He develops research activity in the field of computer security and data privacy. He has regularly collaborated with the National Security Office and the Attorney General's Office in the area of cybercrime and exercised consultancy activity in the area of computer security for the Ministry of Health and the Portuguese Data Protection Commission. Louis Antunes appears regularly on TV news programs as information security expert as well. In 2013, co-founded a spin-off from the university called Health Systems that centers its activity in the area of information security with a strong focus on auditing, EID, and anonymization techniques. Recently co-founded the University of Porto spin-off ADITA. ADITA's main objective is to promote specialized security solutions tailored to the needs of sovereign bodies dealing with sensitive or classified information and large business groups. This spin-off is the result of several years of collaboration with the Portuguese National Security Agency. He's also founder of the startup Tech Privacy that, leveraging on his vast experience in privacy and data protection, aims to develop solutions to assist the work of the data protection officer. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning. Thank you all, and thank you for my presentation. So it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be here behind such a young audience. So the title of the talk is Health Economics. I will be talking about health economics, but mainly about health data and how can we retrieve the value from the data, not only insights for research, but also economic value. Okay. So to give just, again, a short brief, I am from computer science. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not from economics. I am a techie, a geek, whatever you wanted to call it. So I'm not a lawyer also. Typically working on data protection, you have lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. So I have a risk approach on data protection. So on our daily life, we take risks. Whenever we cross the road, there is risk. And in the digital world, the risk is there also. So when talking about data protection, we are going to talk about risk approach. I'm also the DPO of the Portuguese National Data Protection Authority, and I typically like to do technology transfer. I'm not a CEO. I don't like to manage employees, but I like to be involved in the innovation process. And the key point of this talk is the following. Typically, most of the people that talks with me about privacy claim, okay, privacy it's not a social norm anymore. We have social media. So we are overrating this fundamental right that is in the human rights charter. So we are overrating. Let's forget about this. And the key point of this talk for the young generation is don't take this road. Okay, privacy is really important. And my point is the following: if we are able to put a rover in Mars, I'm quite sure that we will be able to develop technology not only to keep these fundamental rights in the digital world, but also to reinforce it, okay? So claiming that is overrated, no, by the contrary, we should increase the fundamental rights in the digital world. So I want to talk a little bit about this. So typically, we all know that data is the new oil for this century. The point is that we need to find ways to extract this oil, and we are not there yet. So, and I want to show you that we are not there yet. The approach that we propose at the University of Porto, and we are doing some technology transfer, is that selling data is a big mistake. Selling data is a big mistake not only for fundamental rights, from privacy reasons, but also from an economic perspective. If you sell your data, then those who buy the data, they will explore, and you only monetize data once, okay? The point is that data should never leave your organization. What we should be looking at is trying to sell access to insights in the data. So if we consider those three organizations as hospitals, they should sell the ability to the market make questions to your data. And you just answer the questions. You don't sell, you don't send data. And the point is the following: what we are building nowadays is these mechanisms where you can ask questions to the data, and we have this privacy assurance model where we can make sure that based on the answer, you cannot retrieve any personal data. So we are trying to develop technology to balance the fundamental rights with the utility of the data. So I will go later for this, but this is a deep dive in the technology that we are developing. And the point is that you can either try to monetize your data. You can either try to monetize not the data, but the model. So you can build a model based on the data and to sell and monetize the access to the model. Okay, we are not talking about data anymore, but to the model. So let's imagine that you build a model that if you give as input the age, let's say, the height of the person, then it can give you the probability of an heart rate problem. You can sell this. You can sell the access to the model. Or you can build synthetic data based on the data. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about pseudonymization data. That's something that we are working on now. So typically the problem is the following, and mainly in healthcare. We collect data for healthcare, so for the provision of healthcare. The point is when we want to give other purpose to the data that we collect with this provision, for provision healthcare. And here, what the legal framework, the European legal framework claims is that we should lower the risk. We should pseudonymize the data. And the point is that most of the people, they don't know what is pseudonymization and anonymization. So this is one of the takeaways of this talk. It's the difference between anonymized data and pseudonymized data. So this is myself, Luís Antunes. I have my VAT number in Portuguese, my address. I am a strong supporter of FC Porto. I am a supporter of a small club in Porto Cruz where my kids play soccer, and I like to travel. Okay, this is myself. What is anonymized data? The anonymized data, we lose the link between the records. There is someone that is a strong supporter of Porto. That is someone that is a supporter of Cruz. We don't know if this someone is the same or not. And there is someone that likes to travel. And again, I don't know if it's the same person that is a supporter of Porto. So, and typically when I give this talk, most of the big data and data science professionals, they claim, okay, this is useless for me. Correct, that's the reason why within the GDPR, it does not apply to this kind of data, okay? But typically, what we do is to replace my personal, my name, my VAT number, and my address by a pseudonymous. And this is pseudonymized data, and the legal framework applies to this kind of data. And I want to show you why. Okay, I have some previous studies that I've been using in some talks in the past. This is kind of neat. As input, we have supposedly anonymized data from phone calls from 15 months from 1.5 million people. And the result of this study is that it's enough to have 4 points, 4 phone calls, to identify 95% of the individuals. And it somehow makes sense. Why? Because if at 8:30 I am at my place, 9:15 I am at school of my kids, 12 I'm at university, and 6:45 typically I'm in Porto also, in the club where my kids play soccer. And the question is, how many people in Porto live in the same place where I live, have the kids in the same school, work at the computer science department, and also take the kids to the same kind of club? I think it's just me, but I'm never sure. We can do this not with phone calls, but with swipe cards. If you buy stuff with your Visa, the result is pretty close, similar to this. Okay? And this is the point. So this paper, I really enjoy the title. When the title of a paper is, "Trust me, I'm a medical researcher," something is wrong here, okay? And in the abstract, they claim scientists can no longer guarantee patients' privacy. They are looking for new ways to build trust. This is still true nowadays. We don't have a silver bullet to lower the risk. So to make a long story short, when COVID appeared, the Directorate General of Health in Portugal, they made available data from COVID to the researchers, which is quite important. The point is that they claimed that the data was anonymized. Of course, it was not anonymized. So I've asked access to this kind of data. just to show that the data was not anonymized. And in fact, I will make this shorter. In fact, we were able to re-identify a huge amount of people. And why? Because we could single out records. So let me just explain what is single out by a simple question. How many people here in this room is Portuguese, 50 years old, and male? How many? So you can single out me by my age, the place where I live, and my sex. Okay? Single out is this. If you can single out a record within a data set, then the chances that I will re-identify that people is really high. Why? Because if there were 5 people here, Portuguese, 50, and male, the uncertainty of which of the Portuguese that were here, it's helping us, okay? So by crossing this data from COVID with the news, and in particular with the newspaper, where the title and the cover page of the newspaper is lives that the virus took. And there we have Manuel Joaquim. He was from Porto, 50 years of age, male, he died. And we crossed this data with the COVID data that the Directorate General gave us, and we were able to re-identify a huge amount of cases. So something like this, 12 for K1, 26, 15, 12, 3, and after a while we gave up because it was really a huge amount of them. So, but the question is that we need to access this data. The point is that this data, just to give you an example on how easy it was to prevent that this would happen. So the left-hand side graphic is the distribution of the ages, and the right-hand side graphic is the distribution of ages if we group by 2. So age 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. So the graphic is more or less the same, so we are not losing that many information. And the probability of single out, it decreases. So the point is that we need to take care and need to do this kind of tricks. So we decided to redo the project for COVID with the Hospital São João, which is the second largest hospital in Portugal. And we started from this point. So on the right-hand side, you have the demographic data, and each line represents, if we only disclose age and gender, the re-identification risk is 1%. If you disclose age, gender, number of days in hospital, outcome, and date of the first lab result, then the probability of re-identification is 98%. Okay? So we start to work with this data set. So we started by suppressing the number of cases that appear more than once. Why? Because I went to the hospital, they sent me home because it was crowded, I got worse, I went back to the hospital again, so we decided to put this as the same case. Okay, then we asked the health researchers, do you need, in the date of the first lab result, do you need the hour where it was made? And they claim, no, we don't need that. For clinical research, we don't need the hour of the result. So we remove the hour, and the risk is lowering. Then we asked, well, is that much important for health research if the outcome is going to a nursing home or to the home? And they claim, again, no, it's not that important. So we decided to plug them together, and the risk decreased. Then in the age, we decided to group them in intervals of 2, and the risk decreased again. So, and after a while, it was interesting because the medical doctors, they finally understood what we were doing. And then this next step, it's interesting because it was a suggestion from people working on health researcher. They claim, oh, I finally understand why you are doing this. So the number of days that they stayed in hospitals, we don't need that. For us, it's enough to have the quartile, if it's the first quartile, second, third, or fourth. And it's amazing. So if we disclose age, gender, the quartile and the outcome, the risk decreased 68% with this approach. It's unbelievable. When finally the researchers understood what we were doing, they were contributing to this game. So we went on, so age in a dynamic range. Why? Because the youngest, they were so few that the interval should be bigger. We took this approach, didn't work. Age in 5 years. Why? Because the National Statistics Institutes, they disclosure data from the census, and the age is in intervals of 5 years, and the biostatisticians, they want to cross with this data. So it makes sense to have intervals of 5 years, and the risk decreased. So for the dates, the dates it's really killing us in privacy, the date, to have a date. So we decided to have 2 days interval. It didn't work that much. 3, again, 7, it didn't work. And what worked was to put some noise in there. So instead of July 1st, we flipped the coin and we registered July 1st plus 3 days or minus 3 days, okay? And after all of this process, the risk of re-identification for the whole set of variables is 1%. We started with 98%, and we ended up with 1%. So now the hospital has asked the Data Protection Authority that they want to put this as open data, and ask if the Data Protection Authority agrees that this is the way to do it and to put this as open data. So what we are doing as technology transfer is trying to automatize this process. So we know that most of the researchers from the health sector, they don't know these methods. So the idea is that they can upload the data set, select a set of techniques, and try to evaluate the risk. So I know I'm talking too much always. So I'm already getting there at the point. So going back to the main project that we have as technology transfer. So this was a sub-project that we decided to take as a pro bono project, trying to show to the hospital Saint-Jean that this is possible. So, and with this project, it will leverage the approach that we want to take. So this is, again, techie, and the main point is this. What we are trying to build is to automatize this process. We are trying to build a model where the data never leaves the hospitals, but still the society and the researchers can use this data and can get the value of the data. So going back to my first point, we should not give up on privacy. We should be challenged to develop technology to reinforce privacy in the digital world, and we are trying to do that. And what is the driver? So these numbers, it's quite impressive. It's from the Data Act from the EU, so it's not my numbers. I didn't figure out this for myself. And the point is that the value of data economy in the EU, in 2018, it was 301 billion euros, and the perspective for 2025 is 829 billion euros. And the point is the following: this amount of money, it's huge, and the tech companies, they will try to get this kind of value. But we, and the younger generation, we need to be challenged to keep and to reinforce the fundamental rights that we have in the physical world to the digital world. We should not give up our fundamental rights that took some centuries of our fathers, grandfathers to conquer. So this is our point. But this slide for us is also useful to talk with companies, with hospitals, claiming, okay, we will help you to get this, but balance the utility of the data with the privacy and the fundamental rights. And the point is that we were able to convince a huge amount of institutions and organizations in Portugal, some telco companies, some retail, the largest retail company in Portugal, the energy company in Portugal. So Porto Business School and Joanna here to try to help us with the economic model to explore this. We don't know, I'm a geek, I'm not economic. So the city of Porto, the Hospital São João, several hospitals, all of them believe that this might be an approach, and we are all collaborating, trying to build new technology to balance the fundamental rights with the utility of the data. I imagine that you already can guess, I'm really a geek that likes data protection, but we should not be fundamentalists. We should help to explore the value and keeping these fundamental rights. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. And we come now to the third presentation of today's program, which is going to be held by Cristina Dorian, as a senior physician and vice chairwoman, Department of Psychiatry and Psychotherapy, Ludwig-Maximilian Universität München. Cristina Dorian is a senior physician and vice chairwoman of the Department of Physiatry and Psychotherapy at the Ludwig-Maximilian Universität München, as I mentioned. In addition to this, to have a degree in medicine, she has a master's degree in business administration and political sciences. She's a board member of International College of Neuropsychopharmacology, as well as a member of the steering committee of pandemic preparedness in the framework of Network University Medicine and member of Center for International Health. Please, Cristina, keep your presentation.
So, thank you for the kind introduction. Dear members of the European University Alliance for Global Health, dear ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to be here today and to give a talk about current challenges and future perspectives of global mental health, opportunities for a healthy society. Thank you for all the organizers, and thank you especially the Vice President of the LMU, Mrs. Biagini, for inviting me. Yes, it is true that I come from the GIMA University, from the LMU University Hospital in Munich, but at the same time, I am very happy to tell you that since a couple of weeks, I am also officially associated with the GIMA University, our most important cooperation partner in Africa, and I think this is a great honor for me. It's a very great achievement as well, especially in the context of global health. So please allow me to represent GIMA University from Ethiopia here today as well. Let's see how does it work. So, linked to this achievement, I very much would like to start with the rule of partnerships in global health, and then explain the importance of the Center for International Health, which we established at the University of Munich, And after that, I will share you the new developments in the field of mental health, especially in the field of education and research. And then I will tell you what can we learn from our partners and show some future perspectives. Over the past 2 years, we had an enormously challenging task to deal with, the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has challenged all of our lives, but also healthcare systems worldwide. But we have made great progresses in this field and tackled the pandemic. In particular, we have the COVID-19 vaccines, medicines, and protective equipments that are examples I would like to mention. But however, the control of the pandemic would have not been possible without close international cooperations and exchange in global health, especially in research and education. I continue to believe that we need the ideas, expertise, and experience all of the countries around the world to address pandemic-related and also other challenges we face in global health. Close cooperation and collaboration are urgently needed to overcome these challenges. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was very sad to see that psychiatric hospitals were closed, for example, and they couldn't offer care in many places of the world. Yeah? And therefore, more than ever, global pandemic containment is a top priority for policymakers, economists, and for the society. Many initiatives have emerged also among universities to create new structures for pandemic response at the university level in collaboration with policymakers and other stakeholders. Here, for example, one example is from Germany, the so-called University Network Medicine. The role of excellent universities is research activities, partnerships, education, and network buildings, which has been strengthened also in spirit of the United Nations, which here you can read as Sustainable Development Goals. One of the most important things is develop a global partnership for further development. That's okay. That's what I very much would like to address today. And this is the issue what we just wanted to solve in Germany. Because, but you look at the current partnerships for education and research in some fields, I sometimes see alarming signs. As you can see here, high-income countries in particular are involved in major research collaborations, and many other parts of the world are not. That's a very important issue, and that's what we wanted to address at the LMU in Munich. And therefore, we founded the Center for International Health with the goal of primarily involving low and middle-income countries in research and education. CIH, as a Center for International Health, has promoting international cooperations in the field of medical education and research since 2009. And our collaborative partners are located in Africa, South America, but also in Asia. To address global health challenges, we established different training programs, such as, for example, the PhD program for medical research and international health. Here, we would like to educate researchers who are able to become multipliers in low and middle income countries and who can become the next generation of health professionals who can also address global health challenges. Here you can see two graduates from this year. One of them is the vice president from the Jima University right now, and also that we can really train people who can take over leading positions as well. Okay. Now, the problem is right now that we have other challenges to deal with. It would be troubling to think that this will be the last pandemic in our century. In addition, climate change is advancing and threatening the livelihoods of many people around the world. And the effects of climate change are particularly exacerbating an already extremely difficult situation for mental health and mental health services worldwide. There are nearly 1 billion people living with mental illness, primarily in low and middle income countries, and many of them do not have access to services they need. And therefore, the question is, what can we do with few resources at university level? How can we help them? For me, the solution is we should have close cooperations, strong partnerships. We should understand local needs and solve problems jointly. Let me give you an example in the field of mental health, in training and research, 2 areas that very well can be placed at our university here in Europe, universities here in Europe. First, let's have a look at the situation in Ethiopia. In 2009, when we started our project, only 45% of the Ethiopians had access to healthcare systems. 80% of the medical doctors have left the country in recent years, and there were altogether only 900 medical doctors in Ethiopia. According to the WHO report, there were 3 non-psychiatric care centers, 6 inpatient treatment centers, and 1 psychiatric hospital in Addis Ababa available for patients with mental diseases. There was a total of 35 psychiatrists, and 27 of them worked in the capital. Just to compare, in Munich we have 60 medical doctors for 200 patients. The prevalence of mental disorder in Ethiopia is quite high, 50% in adults and 11% in children. In addition, not only in Ethiopia, but also in other countries of the sub-Saharan Africa, we can observe 2 phenomena. First, the brain drain, which is defined as a migration of highly educated and trained and talented people from Africa to other countries, since the living and working conditions are better there. And second, the centralization of medical care. This centralization means that trained medical doctors work primarily in the capital and in major cities, a trend that leads to medical undersupply of the population in the peripheral regions of the countries. To help to solve the situation in the field of mental health, together with our partners at the Jimma University, we developed a program called Master of Science in Integrated Clinical and Community Mental Health Care. We trained mental health officers like bachelors or nurses or public health masters for 2 years. And as you can see here, in the past 2 years, we have already graduated 100 mental health masters. And our aim now is to achieve a multiplication of health workers trained in this field. We also integrated, as you can see here, brain drain does not appear to be a challenge among non-physician mental health specialists. All the mental health specialists work here in Ethiopia, and as you can see here, not only in Addis Ababa, in the capital of the city, but also in remote regions of the country. And meanwhile, the master's graduates make a very important contribution to the mental health care in Ethiopia. We also integrated difficult fields like refugee camps in our work. Here one of our masters works in Doloado, the largest refugee camp in Ethiopia. We also integrated anti-stigma work in the program, and as part of our activities, we also organized, for example, an anti-stigma run. Also, the Ethiopian radio was involved and reported about this issue. and one of my colleagues just also received a grant for that. Yeah, that's the first thing. As you can see, by doing training, you can achieve a lot. Yeah, especially you can train. Not only you can train only low or middle level healthcare workers for mental health, and you can just place them in remote regions and in peripheric regions of the country as well. The second point what I wanted to show you is research activities in African countries. Given the challenging conditions on site and the little courage for investments, especially in low-income countries, have not yet had the chance to participate in global research collaborations. And I wanted to show you that many people think that this is not possible to do research in low and middle-income countries, but this assumption is not correct. Here, initial feasibility study shows very highly promising results. Early finding demonstrates, for example, the reliability and validity of biological research methods that are necessary for further studies, deliver new insights in the pathological pathways of mental disorders, underscore the need for further studying psychiatric illnesses, and call for adequate prevention and treatment tools. Here you can see one of our research activities. As you can see, maybe you have already heard about it. There is a plant called cat. This is a native plant to East Africa. It contains amphetamine-like catenones and has stimulating effects on the central nervous system. It is a very popular legal substance in Ethiopia. Many people are doing this plant. As you can see, cat is one of the most important export goods for the country. So many economic and also political issues are connected with this plant. But it can cause many health problems like psychotic symptoms, like addiction, withdrawal symptoms, and therefore we have to see that we just limit the consumption of this plant. Here, also in our research center, in the Gelgel-Gibbe Field Research Center, we conducted very large studies on the topic substance use disorders, trauma, and the development of psychotic symptoms. As you can see here, also our research center has urban and rural areas, and the prevalence of cat chewing is very high in this field. Here I wanted to show you that we just established new biological research methods. Here, for example, we just tested 10 different commercially available amphetamine screening kits for its sensitivities, and we also established the first high-performance liquid chromatography methods in Ethiopia to detect cat alkaloids in urine samples. For sure, the research activity was very challenging, under challenging conditions like high outside temperatures. We had to collect these samples and had to do the analysis on site, but it was feasible. Here you can see the first results, and these are very important findings. For example, here you can see that especially individuals who had traumatic experiences in their life, they develop psychotic symptoms, but we also saw that not only lifetime trauma, but also recent trauma plays a very important role in the development of psychosis. And here we found the first evidence of the sensitization theory of dopamine receptors, which is a very important finding in this regard. Here you can see we also did the first genetic study in Ethiopia. It was very important for us that we conduct the study on site and not do the analysis in high-income countries, as well in Germany, for example. Why it is important to do this research? As you can see, the results we published in World Psychiatry, one of the most important journals in the field of mental health. And we could show that, that supporting young scientists, transferring know-how, establishing new research methods, and making available the latest achievements in science and technology will lead to creating new workplaces, the prevention of brain drain, the strengthening the professional profile of psychiatry, and will help build up better reputation for local university, and subsequently improving the situation and the treatment options for patients. Here, in the presence of high-level politicians, for example, here the Bavarian Prime Minister, and also from the Ethiopian Ministry, we just signed a memorandum of understanding just to conduct further research and to strengthen biological but also community-based research in African countries. We saw that professional research can also lead to new policy ideas and financial innovations. We also saw that rehabilitation units which are lacking in the mental health field in certain countries, for example in Ethiopia, are one aspect we could mention in front of the Ministry of Health after publishing the results, and we started to plan the first rehabilitation farms for people with mental illnesses in Ethiopia. But psychiatric research can also change attitudes and public perception by turning attention on mental health, thereby reducing distance, social exclusion, stigma, and improve the life of people with mental illnesses are very important. We saw also that research enables global partnerships, the cooperation with national governments, international organizations, as well as with local public and private sectors, and raises the public awareness of urgent issues in this field. In cooperation with the Ethiopian Psychiatric Association and with the support of the African Association of Psychiatrists, the first regional VPA Congress was held in Addis Ababa in 2018. That was the first time that VPA, the World Psychiatric Association, went to low-income countries, and in this context, many African initiatives and new ideas were developed for further collaborations. And the most important things, as we work also together with the UN, as the United Nations, on Office on Drugs and Crimes, and we just developed a new UN document on treatment of stimulant use disorders, which is available for a worldwide use. Now, what we can learn from our partners. I think it is very important to include also low and middle income countries in our studies, especially because they are very much underrepresented right now. And if we are truly committed to fighting mental illnesses and stigma associated with it, then we have to leave our surroundings and explore whether our approaches to reach and therapy work not only in a high selected population of high-income countries, but also in every corner of the world where people suffering from mental illness. Right now, we just developed a new project in this field, and you can see I am very much appreciating interdisciplinary projects. So this is one project. We would like to involve 5 different African countries, and Germany is involved as well. And as you can see here, in all countries, we just could found representatives for mental health and infectious diseases. And now we would like to understand the association between these 2 scientific fields. Yeah, what could be the way for the future? I think, first of all, it is very important to do interventions on community level. If you want to understand, what's the problem at local side, we have to go to the communities and do intervention at this level. And the second is interventions on political and at the society level, also doing research, strengthening the professional profile of local universities, raising awareness for global mental health problems, creating links between relevant stakeholders in politics and society. And I think also that global health is not only requires networking and interdisciplinary collaboration within the medicine, but also requires other disciplines to participate, such as politics, economics, engineering, agriculture, and other fields as well. And global health calls for global partnerships, including low and middle income countries, and universities should take over the lead in research and education, because this is our field and this is the field in which we can contribute to do and go for a better global health situation. Future perspectives, I think the 21st century should not only be the century of revolution in biomedical research, it should also be the century of a friendly collaboration of a global research network. For the future, we would like to continue the collaboration with our partners to further extend our relationships and to establish a global mental health network, including low-income countries. And in our view, the key for the realization of this goal and for a fruitful long-term cooperation is to perceive each other as a partners and to take into considerations current and local needs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now we continue with the roundtable discussion, so I pass the word to Eric.
Thanks a lot. I will be super brief. So in fact, we have the chance to entrust the students to moderate the next roundtable. So mainly they will do the job, okay? So we are very, very happy to welcome you. So thank you very much to Alexandra Neller from Szeged University, to Maria Inés Pinao from University of Porto, Nina Young from from Lund University, and Yuli Yao from University of LMU University. So thank you. You can come. No, okay. So you have the floor to initiate the discussions with 1 or 2 questions and to pass the floor to the audience if you want, okay? It can be participative. I'm sure that many of you have questions. We have a limited amount of time for sure, so we will not, of course, consider every question, but at least 1 or 2 perhaps, okay? So Alexandra, do you want to be, okay? Thanks.
So first, I want to thank you for the opportunity to ask a question about this great presentation. My question is for Dr. Adorjan. I read many statistics, and as a PhD student, I know from personal experience that in higher education, especially PhD students suffer from chronic stress and anxiety. Do you think could global alliances like EUGLOH take steps to shift this mindset? Oh, maybe. Maybe you want to come here, or?
Yeah, maybe you could move.
Now it's working.
Okay, thank you very much for this very important question. Yes, I know it. In different fields, I have heard about it, yeah. To some extent, it's the same problem in Ethiopia as well. Yeah, so therefore we are indeed planning a big project on that, just to establish psychological support for students as well. And what we did in the pandemic as well, as I just specialized I'm specialized for the healthcare workers, mental health problems. Yeah, so we just did a lot of projects in this field. We developed new models, for example, just to predict, for example, pandemic-related stress for healthcare workers. And I think also quite similar solutions could be used also for students as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Please notify me if you if you have any project. Thank you.
Maria, Nina, I don't know.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, good morning. It is a pleasure to be here, and I would like to thank the keynote speakers for this very interesting presentation. My question goes to Professor Peter Nielsen. We saw that climate change is a threat to our health, to our physical and psychological health, and is a threat, of course, to our world. And we are facing real and severe environmental problems. So my question is, are nature-based solutions enough to solve these problems? If not, what can we do more from a global perspective?
Yes, so if I understand you correctly, you're asking whether nature-based solutions can improve mental health? Or please repeat.
Also, and all these environmental problems that we are facing.
Well, I think there is a potential, and many projects have started and are ongoing. I think it's important to evaluate these projects, not only according to climate and biology, but also according to human health. Of course, Europe is very diverse. We have some urban areas, densely populated, some less populated areas, for example, in northern and southeast Europe. So it's very much needed to have different projects, urban projects, rural projects, and I think there is a potential that the environment can improve, and that should be carefully evaluated.
Okay.
Any follow-up on that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, and thank you again for the wonderful presentations. I was hoping if each of you could briefly discuss what skills you think today's students should learn or focus on in order to tackle the global health challenges you discussed. Big question.
Okay, as I got the microphone. I think, first of all, students should be concerned and willing to think in new ways. As I addressed, there is a need that the young generation has to challenge some of the dogmas, some of the old beliefs, to find creative new solutions. So not only copy-paste from the elderly generation, but thinks in a new way, and also to interact with each other. We live in a global world with internet, the modern media. So it's much easier these days for students to interact with each other as compared when I was a student. So I think there is a great potential, at least. What do you think?
For me, it would be important that students are open-minded, that they are ready to go to other countries as well, because if you want to understand global health problems, then you have to go to other countries, to go to the sites and see the problems on site, to go to the community, to talk to the people, and not just decide from here, yeah, what is good for Africa or other countries. So as it is to be open-minded, that would be very important for me. And just stay in collaborations and partnerships, yeah, with other countries as well.
So I had some time to think about it. Thank you. So I think this young generation is really, really well prepared. You are smart, you are out of the box. But I think one of the things that we are missing in society is the involvement of this new young generation in politics. I think that politics will be with your involvement in politics and participation and get into some positions, you will get the chance to change, to make the change happen. But from what I see in Portugal, the young generation is really, really away from this reality, involvement in political movements, in political activity. And you should leverage on the connectivity that you have and try to have some global and take leverage on EUGLOH and leverage this movement. So, but I think your participation and involvement in the decisions and the organizations that are deciding the future, your future, it's quite necessary.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity for asking. So I have a question firstly to Professor Nielsen. So from a lot of the epidemiology studies, either the climate change from the heat wave or the cold wave, they have the adverse effect on the human health. So how do you think can we differentiate the climate change effect with other intrinsic factor or the extrinsic factor like the air pollution, the light noisy, or the obesity, age, gender things?
So the question is how I understand the impact of climate change on health, or please repeat.
Yes, how the climate change effect on the health differentiate with other intrinsic or extrinsic factors.
Okay, so if we compare the influence of climate change with the influence of, let's say, genetics or lifestyle or social factors, how does it compare? Important question. It's hard to separate climate change as a separate factor because it can influence so many other things like lifestyle or how we travel and how we live and how we interact. But I think it's of a growing importance. Over the last few years, we have learned so much more, and there have been many international, very important meetings, summits, political meetings at a high level to address this issue. So I think the relative importance of climate change is growing. And now we know, for example, that the repeated natural disasters and the heat waves will harm public health in a much broader way as compared to previous. So on the one hand, we see some acute emergency influences of climate change, like heat waves. People die. On the other hand, we see some long-term influences. For example, in Latin America, there are farmers or country laborers who work during the burning sun, drinking too little water. And it has been revealed in a recent thesis from our university that there is kidney damage. It doesn't happen overnight. It's like a long-term consequence. So to address your question, 3 answers. First of all, the relative importance of climate change is growing. Secondly, there is an acute emergency impact on health, as I addressed. And then the long-term influence, and most of all, on the mental aspects. And maybe you can comment on that?
Also, just an example, as we conducted our study in Ethiopia, then we just assessed for trauma. And we asked, okay, what is trauma for that, yeah, for these people living in this country? And this is not only accident or like earthquake or like just big things, you know, fire or whatever. But trauma is, for example, also no access to the healthcare system, yeah, no access to the water, for example. This is a very stressful situation for people living there, yeah, and especially if you have it for a very long time, then of course, also it can influence your mental health status as well. And I think that's a very important point.
And can influence the risk of a war. You want to? Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have time for 2 or 3 questions from the audience. And if I may, I have a question. You have described extraordinary initiatives at your universities. Which kind of added value would you see in trying to extend to scale up that initiatives at the scale of the Alliance, at part of the Alliance? Would it be relevant or not? Interesting or perhaps not interesting? I hope that it would be. Thank you.
Yeah, I can start this one.
And this question matters with the 3 initiatives. And what is also a striking point is that the Alliance is perceived as a very education-oriented project. And we have also the research project, the ASH 2020 project, on a limited scale. What you describe is research activity. You describe research activity. So how do you see expanding the research activities also and to scale up?
Well, I think it's quite important. It's a global problem, at least from the fundamental rights point of view. Europe has built a legal framework for this data protection. Other countries, Brazil, California, a state in the United States, are following. So we are level up this. So, and the collaboration worldwide, and in particular within this consortium, I think it will help us to speed up the process and try to get there.
Yeah, I think as I described it before, for me it would be very important to have more partnerships also with other countries or with other countries as well. Yeah, I know also this is now here the European University Alliance for Global Health, but I could imagine just to have cooperations with other universities worldwide. Yeah, so maybe other universities should not be members urgently or for the first time, but maybe we could collaborate with them. Yeah, and for example, at the LMU in Munich, we very much focus on health. Yeah, we have our institute, Center for International Health, but other fields like agriculture we can't cover. Yeah, and we could look around a little bit and see maybe your university have a very special field there. Maybe you are interested in doing research in other countries as well. So we have the collaboration with the university, and somehow we just could extend our collaborations also in this regard in context to other low-income countries as well. Also, I think there are a lot of possibilities to work together and without making everyone member of the society, also alliance.
If I may add to that, now the EUGLOH is expanding from 5 universities, 4 new, 9 universities. So I think that will benefit a lot. New competencies, new areas of interest from the north to the south, from the west to the east. I think that creates a very good stimulation for for research, and we should consider which strong points do we have of each university. You described your university, and I think other universities can do the same, and to reach out for some projects, joint applications for European Research Council funding would be one idea, or some other kind of funding, and of course the student exchange, and as I mentioned, postdoc exchanges as well. Thank you.
And maybe one point, not only North and South cooperations are interesting.
North, South, West, and East.
Not only North, South, or West and East, but also South-South cooperations are very important. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your responses, and this is great. We have a very bright future if we develop all that actions. Okay, thank you very much. So we can consider a question from the audience. So we have a microphone. We have a first question there.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. You talk about collaboration between disciplines as one of the ways to go to help fight climate change. My question has to do with taboos that is mostly used in sub-Saharan Africa, particularly in Ghana. These taboos deterred people from farming across or near rivers, so people did not do that. But nowadays, because of the demystification of these taboos, people farm close to these riverbeds, and the rivers are drying up. There's illegal cutting of trees and pollution of the water, and that is contributing to the hazards in the environment. Do you think that there's something that we can learn from these traditional folks, the way of life that prevented destruction to vegetation, and that could improve our climate?
If I understand you correctly, you asked about the value of traditional food, traditional culture that will not impact so much on nature and the climate. I think it's a good point. One should consider sustainable agriculture. And sustainable agriculture, I guess, I'm not an expert in Africa, means a close contact with traditional food habits, traditional culture, but also to add some new ideas. We know, of course, that not all modern ideas are good ones, because they can backfire if you use fertilizers too much. I guess that could backfire. So we should learn more about what you told, traditional food habits, for example, traditional agriculture.
Yeah, maybe I can tell you something in this regard. In Ethiopia, for example, Lake Tana, there is a plant, I don't know how does it called, but the lake is full of this, yeah? And it's bad for the climate. So someone should remove this plant from the lake. But from this plant, you can very good make carpets, for example, or some other things as well, or also for fashion, as you can make clothes of that or somehow. Right now, we are thinking about to establish a fashion training program at the Jima University, and just to see how to integrate and how to solve this climate problem, and at the same time how we can utilize this plant. And maybe we was also thinking about to involve this in the occupational therapy for people with mental illnesses. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of opportunities to use local resources in a very smart way in your countries.
Thank you. So yeah, please give the microphone.
So my question is directed to Professor Luís. I was wondering to what extent do you think that the new ways of creating protection to the privacy of the data are actually able to being automated, because you can maybe be removing too much information and actually inutilizing the data? And to what extent do you think that it is possible to apply artificial intelligence to this and to enhance the automation of the process, basically?
Yeah, thanks. Excellent question, because if the data is not any more useful, then all of this process is useless. So, but the point is that the measure that we took to measure the utility of the data after all of the process was the following, was to look to all of the papers that were published based on the previous data set and try to see if we could simulate the same paper with this new data set. And the point is that we could have reached the same goals of the published papers with this data set, which does not mean that there is not a different research question for which this data set will not be useful. But for that, we need to balance. We need to ask, okay, so what is the point? And try to see what is the balance between the level of risk. The main point is that you should not give up. Okay, you should try to protect the fundamental rights. Of course, trying to do research. The point of data protection is not to prevent research. Otherwise, it will be killing data protection. Regarding the automation process, we are doing that nowadays, trying to take away the privacy professional out of the game and try to automatize all of this process. But the point is that the end user, the researcher, is the one that can measure the utility of the data. So what we are doing is trying to build tools so the researcher, can use the tools and be guided by the tools, keeping in mind that the data needs to be useful for the purpose that he wants to take the data. In fact, what the hospital is trying to do is, after this process, this automated process, if the risk level is low enough, then the researcher can just download the data set without any intervention of the DPO or all of the research process that takes a huge amount of time to researcher to get the data. So, and yes.
Thank you very much. So due to the limited time, we have time for 2 more questions, let's say. And after, we will have a few announcements.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Khalid Iqbal from University of Hamburg, and my question will be to Peter Nielsen. In your slide, you mentioned about a very high prevalence of diabetes in Northern Africa and Southeast Asia. In the context of this endemic that you explained, what do you think are the main factors, like whether it's a climate change, because most of the population in this part of the world are young. So it's not aging and something else, but if you can explain that. And in order to tackle this issue, what kind of a collaboration that we can do with these countries or this part of the world so we can tackle this problem? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, very relevant question. I think what we see with this emerging epidemic of type 2 diabetes is a reflection of change of lifestyle against a background of genetic susceptibility. You know, to have a westernized lifestyle in many of these areas means that you put a strong pressure on the biology, the glucose metabolism, against this genetic susceptibility. We should also consider that many of these people, even the young and middle-aged people, they were born during harsh conditions. Their mothers were underfed, lack of vitamins, lack of nutrients, low birth weight. And then as adults, they enter another lifestyle, more affluent lifestyle, at least in some parts, that will promote type 2 diabetes heavily. You also asked about possible collaboration. I know that, for example, from the UK, they have a tradition to do collaboration with India, Pakistan, and the other areas of Southeast Asia. My university has tried to develop some contacts with the Middle East because there we see a very rapidly growing epidemic of obesity, type 2 diabetes, because many of these people around this Persian Gulf, or what you call it, used to, in the past, live on scarce calories, scarce food. Now they have rich oil incomes and very affluent lifestyle, and it's too hot to go out into the street to do some physical activity. So you see, it's a perfect storm, so to say, for type 2 diabetes. Then we can collaborate with them. And I think one way is to go there or to invite people and to set up research projects like you told Ethiopia. As I understand, this is a multi-dimensional project. You addressed mental health, but you have genetics, you have epidemiology. What about the possibilities for the researchers from Ethiopia to visit you in this exchange?
Yeah, sure. As I told you, we are very interested in multidisciplinary research, interdisciplinary research. As for us, it's always important to see the influence of environment. As you can imagine, for example, in Ethiopia, people live there under conditions like 3,000 years before. Yeah, I think it's a really great opportunity for us to see how environment, living together with animals, whatever, can influence health and mental health as well. So I think we can go for very, very comprehensive studies in this field.
Okay. One more comment to you. We have learned from some research data that this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, can even promote diabetes in some susceptible people. We don't know how, but maybe that's because of inflammation hitting the beta cell, producing insulin and harming the beta cell. So that is a typical example of good high quality research project that could link some of our countries with some other affected countries, because COVID-19 was a global pandemic. So it's a typical example how to map this risk of diabetes, how to understand it, and to learn for the next pandemic, because there will probably be something in the future, unfortunately. So addressing your question, I think that especially provides us with an example of collaborative research where we can meet, so to say.
Maybe in addition, we know that mental health or mental illnesses are multifactorial diseases. It means also that the environment has a very big influence in the development for a mental illness in later life. And for example, concerning the pandemic, we know the viral hypothesis of schizophrenia. So if the mother is pregnant, and she has a viral infection, then later in life people can get psychosis maybe, or also schizophrenia. What kind of effect, what kind of influence the COVID-19 pandemic has, we don't know right now, but this is a question which is also very important for the future. Do we have more people with schizophrenia in the next 20 years? Similar effects we saw in the big pandemic after as in the Spanish as a pandemic, But let's see how does it work here.
Just a follow-up question for you, if I may. We face a problem. We call it post-COVID symptoms, mental problems. Tiredness, inflammation, maybe even impaired glucose metabolism. Is the presentation of this problem the same in Europe as in Africa, as in other countries, or is it culturally influenced somehow?
Yeah, so we know that that in Africa the pandemic was not so worse, yeah, like in Europe. The population structure is completely different. Very young people are living in Africa, for example, in Germany we have, or in Europe or in other countries, as we have rather an older population, and of course, as especially these people were affected by Corona or COVID-19. So therefore, as we don't see too much consequences like post-COVID in African countries. A couple of weeks ago, I spent a few days in Ethiopia, so they don't have like these test methods we have, yeah, so they don't test for COVID right now, so we don't know how is the incidence, how high is the infectious rate right now, so therefore we don't see these patients in this regard. But also the society structure can give some explanations for that.
Thank you so much. The discussion between the researchers has already begun, it seems. So we have time for the last question. Okay. And after, again, we will have some announcements. So a microphone perhaps for Fausto? In the sound, yeah.
Sorry, thank you. Fausto Ignato from LMU. I'm a PhD student, but I'm also involved with the EUGLOH project. And I want to thank you for the presentations. I think they demonstrated again the potential that lies within the Alliance to address global health issues across disciplines, but also across boundaries. And as someone involved in EUGLOH, the EUGLOH project expands the scope of the Alliance to include research and innovation aspects into the play. I wanted to ask a question for actually the three of you. What can we do, what can we offer from EUGLOH, and especially EUGLOH, to facilitate and enable the conversation, the collaboration between the Alliance members, between the researchers coming from each institution, from each Alliance member, and strengthen and enhance joint research? What can we offer? What instruments? Thank you.
Well, that's a good question. I think that I agree with you that I believe that the most value scientific developments will appear on the cross-border of several scientific carriers. So nowadays in each one of the area we are too narrow, and by crossing the knowledge of different areas we will go one step ahead. The thing that I would like to see, typically I discuss this in Portugal also, trying to see how we can collaborate within different scientific areas. And I think that the easiest way would be either to have joint supervision of students that would force us to talk with this obligation to help someone in some subject. Another perspective will be to have some funds for joint projects that should involve different universities and different scientific areas. So the call should have a set of conditions that should be fulfilled, and these conditions should empower the network of universities, I think.
Yeah. I would go maybe for more networking, also not within of the Alliance, but also with other partners as well. I think maybe we could think about just to invite you to some, for example, activities. As we have global network meetings, for example, in the field of mental health. Somehow we could invite you, and I think the most important thing would be in this regard the discussion. Yeah, just to understand each other's race problems and discuss it.
A brief comment. Each university has got an international department with very skilled officers to handle international relations, and maybe they can be very helpful in promoting these contacts and ask what EUGLOH can do to achieve our goals.
Can I something? I think I understand your perspective. You are trying to go bottom up, which is interesting. Let me just add an example of an area that I work where the cross boundaries of disciplines were important. So data protection, we have the law and we have technology nowadays. And what was important was to build a common ground, a common language where each one of us would understand what the other part was talking about. So for law, talking about Bitcoin, talking about blockchain, for them it's something way of their knowledge, trying to explain, trying to talk. So I think it's important to have these joint projects.
Thank you very much to all the keynote speakers. Thank you very much to the students, okay, for your questions. Thank you also. We have some few announcements, so let's applaud. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the level of this roundtable with a very accurate and very fruitful discussion. We see that there is room to progress and to continue to discuss, including that topics directly. Okay, Emily?
Good morning. If we haven't met yet, my name is Emily Helmeet and I'm the Secretary General of EUGLOH. I'm not here to give another speech. I'm here to give several very important announcements. The first is, it's going to be hot today, tomorrow, and Friday, so stay hydrated. We have water bottles and we've asked for extras, but in the name of keeping things as green as possible, if you have a bottle, please conserve it and reuse it. It will help us and it will certainly help you. I wanted to also ask you to refrain from smoking in the garden at the ENS. There is an exit in the back of the hall where we'll be eating lunch, where you can go outside of the building to smoke if you need to. Let's see, next on the list. Today, there are students taking oral exams here at ENS. They're all very nervous, so you'll probably recognize them from their nervous expressions. We are asked to be as calm as possible in the hallways. So if you venture outside of the areas where we're eating or here, please keep that in mind. After this meeting, there is a governing board meeting. So if you find me, I will help escort you to the room where we will have lunch and have our meeting together. If you have any questions, any of you, you'll either find people in orange t-shirts, they're very bright, you'll notice them, or my team members will be the ones running down the hall. So if you can catch up, don't hesitate to ask us any questions you might have. And finally, and most importantly, we would like to take a group photo with all of you. And so we would ask you to kindly follow us from the room all together. Do not pass go, do not collect 200 euros. Go straight to the garden below the amphitheater. And on the right, we'll have people to help you get there. And we'll all be looking up at the passerelle that we have above us and taking a photo together. And then you are free to eat lunch with us and to continue the day. And I'm sorry, I actually have to add one more thing. I hope we'll be seeing all of you at the EUGLOH Village this afternoon. And as a reminder, the Village is the space that we've set up for you to continue the discussions that we've had this morning with our researchers and our students, to meet one another, to come up with new project ideas, new activities, and to have a really good time. So to go over to the EUGLOH Village, we'll be leaving together at about 2:15 from the entrance of ENS, and we'll have our orange-shirted group to help escort you. Thank you very much.